What's up guys, Gabe here. Welcome back to another episode of Real Hooked Outdoors. Today I'm out here on a cold, chilly day. You can see, snowy day here in the Pacific Northwest. Just got done with a foot and a half of snow here in some areas. Definitely a cold one, not predicting any bites today, but I wanted to come out and do a little bit of an informative video on Centerpin, so let's get to it. Alright, so I got the Lamaglass Redline Centerpin rod. This is a 6'2", 15, 1/4 to 3 ounce, 12-foot rod paired up with the Okuma Raw 2 Centerpin reel. On the Centerpin reel I have 50-pound P-line. The reason I use P-line braid, or any braid in preference, and such heavy braid on my Centerpin or any float rod is the heavier line as far as the braid, it does tend to float better. So down to the business end, I do like to run a big corky on top of my bobber. That way if you ever cast and it's hanging on the side of your bobber, you know you didn't cast right or something got tangled up. As far as this setup, this is a 1 1/4 ounce Bomac clear drift float paired up with a 1 ounce inline weight. Your preference on setup, whatever you use, just make sure it's balanced. Run anywhere from a 2 to 3 foot leader down to your bait of choice. Today I am running the Addicted Red Haze Worm. See if we get any steelhead on this one today. Let's get to it.
So here we have Centerpin setup. As you can see, got my bobber stop set just a couple inches above the bobber down to the Red Haze Worm. As far as the BC swing cast, that's the most commonly and most effective and the easiest cast to use for long distance in my opinion. So as far as the BC swing cast, you're going to start in the back of your cast. You're going to hold the spool from falling. As you begin to start your load up cast, as you begin to swing forward per se, before you swing forward, you're going to want to let go of some tension and start dropping that weighted setup back there. And as you drop your setup, as you free spool and drop your setup, you're going to swing and cast out. It's going to take some practice. Tie up a setup, not a clear drift float. Tie up a foam setup. That way when you cast it in your yard, you're not blowing out a bunch of clear drifts. But put a foam setup on, cast around in your backyard, go to a field, get the hang of it. Try some different casts. See what works best for you. I prefer the BC swing cast. Again, you just load it up on the back of your cast, kind of like a bait caster. You hold down on the spool with your finger right here until you're ready to cast. As you begin your cast, you're going to ease off some tension and swing it out. And I'm solo today, so I don't have anybody helping me film. If you guys want to see a little bit more in-depth on the BC swing cast, I can do a separate tutorial. Just comment down below. I'll put a link right here. The reason I prefer a BC swing cast is it keeps your line naturally coming off. There's a lot of casts out there. A lot of people say, you know, hold it out here and then you can cast it and you're pulling your line off from the side. But after a while, you'll notice your line gets a lot of spirals in it. If you use a BC swing cast, it keeps it coming off the spool very freely. Again, on the back of your cast, you're gonna hold it down on your swing. You're going to load up your swing just like you would any other cast. And as you do that, you're going to let some line out and tension. Don't necessarily want to free spool it all the way because you'll get a bird's nest. You want to find the happy medium. Again, go to a field, go to your backyard, try a setup and get the hang of it. But that's a Centerpin, and I can cast almost all the way on the other side of this river. All right, so after you get the BC swing cast down, or any cast, You're going to want to learn how to mend your line properly, not keep a bunch of line on the water, because if you keep too much line on the water and your line's going faster than the bobber, you'll get some line drag, or your bobber will actually tip downstream. If it's behind it, it'll actually tip upstream. If you're too deep, bobber will be angled downstream and dragging down the river that way. So just like any other bobber setup, you're gonna want to cast out. As soon as you cast out, you're gonna want to pick up a lot of line, and you'll get the hang of all this fast spool. Don't get mesmerized by it. Once you get the hang of running some line to the center pin, from where you cast until it's in front of you, you're gonna want to pick up slack. I have the bobber right there. I'm tight on the bobber. So as it begins drifting past me is when I'm gonna let line out of the center pin reel. And if it's fast current, you don't want to let it go crazy. You'll get a bird's nest here. You're going to want to stop this or break this as it's coming off the spool. One of the most effective reasons of a center pin reel is you can keep it in that strike zone. From where I cast it, it's drifted right by me and stayed in that entire seam all the way down almost to those rapids. So again, cast out. As you cast out, you're going to pick up some line and drop it to you, and your center pin reel will slow down when you pick up all that slack. As you can see, I'm getting more slack in my line right here. Bobber's getting closer to me. I'm going to do that same thing. Pick up some line off the water, and as it drifts past me, I'm going to make sure I'm tight with the bobber. No line on the water. And I'm going to send the bobber down in that strike zone, in that seam, all the way down. And just keep letting line off. You can really go as far as you want, as far as you're comfortable on the center pin. Just be ready if you do hook a fish 50, 60 yards away from you, because it's going to be fun. Be prepared. Especially if you're close to rapids like that and you got a tree in your way, just know where you're fishing. Because if that fish decides to turn and go down, got to go in the river, around the tree, and try and catch up to that fish if it decided to go down the rapids. Little tech tip though, if you do hook a fish like this in this instance and it's heading towards those rapids, what you're going to want to do is turn your rod down and bury it down to the side. Don't keep your rod tip way up here on high like that, because you're going to keep the fish wanting to come out of the water. If you keep your rod tip down and to the side, you'll end up turning that fish from going to down those rapids, most likely. At the end of the day, if the fish wants to go down those rapids, it's going down. So again, just keep your rod down in the water like this and hold, gain when you can, but hold. That fish will turn and come back to you.
This is a really good setup. If you ever want to get into center pinning, feel free to comment down below, send me a message. I'll get you into it. I know there's a lot of people that may be new to the area, new to it here in the Pacific Northwest. It's a very common tactic we use back home in Michigan. So please, if you like what you see here, please comment down below, like and subscribe. See you on the water.